Hey everybody, Win Claybaugh here, Dean of Palm Mitchell Schools, and happy Monday, and happy to all of you some of you are still quarantined at home doing distance learning, and some of you are able to go back into your schools, and this is all brand new, uncharted territory for all of us. And of course, we know exactly what to do in times like this. We know that it's time to gather together, to bring our resources, and we know especially the value and the importance of reaching out to our heroes, to our mentors, which you better believe one of the people at the top of that list is this amazing man that we get to spend the next hour with, Tim Storey. And so just a brief introduction of Tim, and then here's what's going to happen is Tim will speak for a while, and then towards the end, we will open it up to question and answers, which I will facilitate. And if you'll notice at the bottom of your screen there, it says Q&A. Any questions that you may have, please write them into that Q&A box, and I will navigate myself through that and pull out some questions to then read to Tim for him to answer for all of us live. I welcome all of you. Thank you so much. Tim, we have quite a few participants involved in this, and we found out that some of our schools, they signed on with one Zoom address or whatever you call it, but they had 80 people sitting around listening to that. And so we have quite the audience for you today, as we should. Everybody, I could spend the entire hour talking about who Tim is and what he has accomplished. I happen to know firsthand that he doesn't care about that. He doesn't really care about the names and the accolades, and what he truly cares about is, first of all, establishing credibility. And so, yes, he'll share with you who he has worked with, because that brings credibility to his message so he can get to the point. I love that he works with people like Oprah and Steve Harvey, and that he has been endorsed by people like Lee Iacocca and Quincy Jones and Smokey Robinson. You know, I want Smokey Robinson on my list, but I don't have that yet. But my buddy Tim does. And Tim, I can't thank you enough for you volunteering your time, donating your time to be here with all of our wonderful Palm Mitchell future professionals and team members. So, and Tim is absolutely no stranger to the Palm Mitchell school world. I have a feeling that you have visited, what, 40 of our schools, Tim? Yes. And you've done all of our events from Caper to Summit to JPMS's gathering in Las Vegas. You've done quite a few events, and we can't wait to hear more from you today and in the near future. So thank you, Tim, once again for being here.
You're very welcome. And when it's a privilege to be part of the family, I feel like I am part of the family and talk about the schools everywhere I go, because you guys have the best schools by far. And I believe that the whole idea of excellence and having this amazing life is really working out for people. So today I want to talk about having influence. The word influence, if we're taking notes, number one means impact. Secondly, it means effect. And thirdly, it means leadership. So to have influence, you're going to have an impact on somebody, an effect on somebody, and you're going to have leadership. I was coming out of a restaurant one day in London, England, and as I was coming out of this restaurant, I saw a man, and he walked like a duck. And he had a wife, and I couldn't believe this. She walked like a duck. And then they had two little boys, and guess what? They walk like ducks. And that is what's called the law of reproduction. So if you're taking notes, the law of reproduction. And that is like produces like. So like produces like. So if you have an orange seed and you plant it, you're going to get an orange tree. Apple seed, apple tree. Some people, they plant the wrong seeds and expect some kind of amazing results. But really, there is a law of influence. And the influence that you have will bring impact, effect, and leadership wherever you go. So let's say you have children. As a parent, mother or father, there are three things that you should be doing as a parent. Number one, that is to guide your children, to guide. The second is to guard your children so they feel protected. The third is to govern your children, which is administration. So to guide, to guard, and to govern. To guide, to guard, and govern creates influence within a house. Impact, effect, leadership. It is a fact that when children feel safe, they're more creative. It's a fact when children feel safe, they're more confident. This is very, very powerful, because even if you were raised in a family that did not have a family that was guiding you, guarding you, and governing you, which is the case in many young people, that I'm going to show you how you could be the leader in your family that maybe wasn't there before, and that you can bring influence, impact, effect, and also leadership. Now, I have been doing a lot of research on this for a book that I'm writing. I'm writing a book for HarperCollins right now, and it's all about the miracle mindset. And so with this idea of influence, I found through a lot of hard work that there are different attributes of people like yourself who have influence. So let's take notes. Number one, they are internally motivated. They are internally motivated. So they're influential people, but they're motivated from the inside. And so that's very, very important, because people within your school, they can try to motivate you. Friends can try to motivate you. Leaders can try to motivate you. But unless that motivation drops about 12 inches from your mind into your spirit or into your heart, then we got problems. So people that do well in life, that have influence, they're internally motivated. And I'm going to tell you about me. I'm internally motivated. But part of my internal motivation came from 5 children and a mother and father, born in Compton, California, 7 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. I got internally motivated fast. I didn't like cramped or crowded. I felt like my whole childhood was like, give me some elbow room, okay? If I'm on, say, Southwest Airlines, and my assistant didn't, book me early, and I'm in the C group, I don't like the C group. I like the A group. Maybe I can tolerate the B group, but don't be putting me in the C group. Because if you're in the C group, you're going to probably sit in a center seat. Center seat watch. You're fighting for elbow room. Boom, boom, boom. So I got very internally motivated as a kid that when the other kids had Levi's, I was wearing Levi's. When they had Converse tennis shoes, I was wearing something else. So I got internally motivated fast. Second characteristic or attribute to have influence is people are humble and they stay in a place of humility. I beg you to hear this. They are humble and they stay in a place of humility. I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, because I think that you have to remember, just because somebody has a way about them or charisma or they're over the top, doesn't mean they need to lose their personality. So please don't ever forget this. God does not kill your ego. He purifies it. So you may have a tremendous ego, and I don't mind that. But the ego needs to be purified. So I'm around the best of the best of the best actors, entertainers, rappers, producers, directors, people like Win Clayball. But I'm telling you, I know a lot of people who are excellent at what they do, and they are humble and they stay in a place of humility. So, Tim Storey, how do I get to that place of humility? So, humility is not cowering, okay, thinking that you're a nobody. No, humility is a healthy self-esteem, a self-value, realizing that you are valuable, realizing that you are celebrated. You know, in fact, in some of your schools, guys, I have asked people, what do you want to do when you get out of school? And some have said, I want to be a celebrity. Well, I didn't really know that that is an occupation. A celebrity means to be celebrated, okay? So I don't believe that you have to be, you know, on a big show, come to Beverly Hills or Hollywood and work for the top entertainers to be phenomenal. To be celebrated means simply to be celebrated. And I believe that there are people in your life that hopefully celebrate you. So if they celebrate you, therefore you're a celebrity. So slow down. So second attribute is that people are humble and they stay in a place of humility. And another thing that will keep you in a place of humility is servanthood. And that's, again, a lot of what Win Clayball does. He is constantly serving other people, okay? All right, third attribute that we need to learn so we can be influencers, have impact, effect, and leadership. Third attribute is this. People who do well and that are strong influencers, they don't waste time on things that do not bring value. Write that down. They do not waste time on things that do not bring value. When you're younger, you might have 12 hours to walk around the mall. Now that you're older, maybe you should cut that down to 2 hours. Social media, some things are beneficial, some things make no sense, okay? All right, so don't waste time on things that don't bring value. Like, I'll give you a confession about myself. I used to get bored on airplanes. And so I started off with People magazine, Us magazine. I'd read these magazines because a lot of my friends are in them. But the more I would read these magazines, I'd find there was a lot of silliness in there. And there was a lot of things that were not true because I knew the true story many times. And so I started taking that time and saying, Tim, let's not read all these quote unquote rag magazines. Let's listen to podcasts. Let's read books. Let's put things into my ear gate and eye gate that matter, that bring value. Because I want you to hear me and hear me well. You are being educated right now through our schools, and I consider myself part of the team. So this is a very important time that you don't waste time and only do things that bring value to your life. Now, should you have a social life? Yes. Have friends? Yes. Joke around on weekends? Yes. But also do things that bring value in your life, okay? Number 4, we're talking about influence, having impact, effect, and leadership. Number 4, people have influence. They look at the upside even when there is a downside. They look at the upside even when there is a downside. Now, obviously, with the time that we've been dealing with, COVID-19, moving forward, because a lot of you will watch this and we're not in the heat of COVID-19, but you would have heard of it, okay? Well, in the midst of this, people have lost jobs, some of you. People have lost a lot of money. But I've found that people who are influencers, they somehow look for an upside even when there is a downside. So let me just say this to you. You got to really try to take this in. This is what I do for a living. Sometimes life will close a door to open up the door. Life will close a door to open up the door. So in the midst of isolation and being quarantined and being sequestered in my house, I have created new businesses. I have been working on projects and writing. I have got in better shape than I was before the pandemic hit. So that was a choice. I could have got pushed around, let life do something with me. Remember this quote that I say, if you don't do something with life, life will do something with you. So people who are influencers like yourself, they don't waste time on things that don't bring value. And number 4, they look at the upside even when there is a downside. People, I beg you, start speaking by faith about the upside. Start talking about 2020 still going to be my year. Somehow June's going to be okay. July is going to be okay. August is going to be okay. September is going to be okay. That's how me and my friends talk. I know guys, listen to this. One of my friends, he had to close down 100 of his gyms. He owns 100 gyms. I have friends in the restaurant business, had to close down as high as 17 restaurants. I know people that have lost millions of dollars, but in the midst of the mess, they are still looking for the upside, even when there is a downside. Okay? We're talking about the power of influence. Stick with me. We're moving and doing something here. The next thing to have influence is people who are influential like you. That's people who make impact, effect, and leadership. They find their authenticity and they stay with it. They find their authenticity and they stay with it. And such is the case of my good friend, Robert Downey Jr. You know, when I first got on Robert, first time I met him was 1999. So that means we've been friends for a long time. Spent a lot of hours together, even to this day. And one of the things I love about Robert, he's himself. And there's a quote that I love. You've been born an original, don't die a copy. Stay authentically you. Now, it's kind of a funny story. When I was 18, I went to a nightclub to go see a guy that was just a few years older than me, and his name was Prince. If you remember Prince, lift your hands, okay? I went and saw Prince. I was 18 and a half, almost 19 years of age, and he had one hit song, and it was, I want to be your lover, bum, ba, bum, 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 bum. And then he sang that song, and everybody kind of liked it. But then he sang 2 other songs that they didn't like. On the 3rd song, he came out from behind where he was, and they all noticed he had spandex pants on, and they didn't like the song he did at all. And they were booing in the midst of his song. It was as though Prince was playing at the Showtime Apollo, but it wasn't. He was playing at a nightclub in Los Angeles, which was just as bad. And they were booing Prince, the icon. Purple Rain, got his own museum in Minneapolis. One of the greatest artists of all time. They booed him. They booed him. And when he finished the 3rd song, he said, well, I was supposed to do 2 more songs, but I've decided that you're not really liking my songs. And so I'm going to go. And they just booed him off the stage. Now, I thought to myself, I'm going to study this little Prince guy and see what happens in his life. And when I say little Prince guy, I don't mean the stature. I'm just saying, I just thought I'm going to study Prince. And so as I studied him, I saw that he stayed the same. He stayed authentically Prince. The thing that did not work for him in the beginning started to work for him in the middle and the end. People who are great influencers, they find their authentic self and they stay with it. Now, that doesn't mean this, that if you're a rebel, you're just going to stay a rebel, or I don't show up on time, that's just not me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you've been born an original, don't die a copy. Look at guys like Pharrell Williams. He's very much himself. Look at people like my good friend Desi Perkins, who does things in makeup. She's very much herself. Look at Win Clayball, very much himself. Be authentic, okay? Let's do two more. Now, next thing about people who are influential, that have impact, effect, and leadership. Very important. They continue to learn. They continue to learn. Please, please, please write that down. Now, I'm looking to my left because there's a plethora of books. I look to my right. There's a plethora of books. I am constantly learning. What are you learning about? Everything. I was talking to my friend today that was one of the stars of Phantom of the Opera. He played the Phantom. We were talking today about many things, including acting. I was talking to a producer already this morning. We were talking about being a producer, what that takes. I was talking to a writer yesterday, talking about writing, always wanting to learn, always wanting to learn. When I get around Win Clayball, even when we travel, we're on the road, we're in restaurants together, we're in airplanes together, we're constantly learning from each other. Iron sharpens iron. Please hear me. There are three primary ways that you learn. We're talking about being influential. Number one, write this down, is education. Number two is conversation. Number three is observation. One of the ways I learned from Vidal Sassoon is through conversation. He had a little restaurant that he liked on Cannon Drive in Beverly Hills, and we would meet there a lot. We'd eat breakfast, and Vidal would tell me the stories of how he first started in the business, how it did not look like it was going to work, and he found his way through. So that's why it's so important that we have these kind of meetings like we're doing. So excited about what Win Clayball is doing and the entire team to bring on various guests who come from different perspectives. Why? Because we can learn. Education, conversation, observation. My life has been different than most people's lives. I got to sit with Charlton Heston and talk to him about being Moses. He was Moses in the Ten Commandments. I got to sit once a month with Tony Curtis, one of the greatest actors of all time. I got to sit with Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, Lee Iacocca. I get mentored by Quincy Jones. Now, those are the old school. I'm not going to talk about the new guys I hang out with, because there was something about those old generals that helped me learn some life lessons. So people like you that are influential, again, to influence means impact, effect, and leadership. They continue to learn. Please don't be complaining in the Paul Mitchell School. Please don't just look at your watch and wait for the hours to end. Please, please, please educate yourself in all things. It's going to help you in every area of your life. Number 7, and then when Clayball is going to come back on, we're going to do a little Q&A time, and then I want to find out what you learned today. Okay? Number 7. All right? People who do well like you, they push themselves beyond their comfort zone. Woo, this is so powerful. If you just do in life what makes you comfortable, Hey, I'm going to tell you something right now. Oh, you missed number 6. So that's okay. So number 6, number 1, they're internally motivated. Number 2, they're humble. Number 3, they don't waste time on things that bring value. Number 4, they look for the upside even when there's a downside. Number 5, they're authentic. Number 6, they continue to learn. Okay. And number 7, they push beyond their comfort zone. Now, again, please listen to me. You cannot just go with the mood that you have that day. Even I wake up some days and I go, holy schmoly guacamole. And then I look at my phone and I look at this huge schedule that I have. There are times I want to go right back to sleep and keep pushing snooze buttons, okay? There's times I want to call in sick. But people who have amazing influence like you, they push beyond the comfort zone. Study the story of the Beatles. When Paul McCartney was recently on Howard Stern, that was an interesting conversation. He talked about the Beatles and how much they practiced. They pushed beyond the comfort zone. Look at Michael Jordan in this new special. He pushed beyond the comfort zone. I'm here to tell you, in my life, I constantly push beyond my comfort zone. If I don't know about it, I want to learn about it, even if it makes me look stupid. I don't know everything about stocks, but I'll ask people, even if it makes me look stupid. I don't know everything about what you guys do in your field, but I ask questions, even if it makes me look stupid. Why? Because I want to push beyond my comfort zone. Please, I beg you to hear me. The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. So today I'm talking to a lot of people. Look at all you participants on here. And you are going to do amazing things. You're going to have impact, influence, okay, effect, and leadership. And people are going to watch you. You are a billboard for a better life. And a lot of times, it's not what you say. It's who you are. It's the tone that you set when you enter into the room. Okay? I think you guys are awesome. Let's talk to some of the people.
Thank you.
See me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Tim, amazing. How many times have I heard you? Jeez.
Well, this quarantine's got me working hard. I'm not joking with you, Win. I'm studying like never before. And I'm just very interested on what makes an influential person, because an influential person is going to bring impact, effect, and leadership. And that can change an entire family. So I was excited about this lesson.
I'll tell you, probably at least 80% of the emails that I receive from future professionals are related to becoming famous. Somehow they want to become famous doing hair and makeup within the entertainment industry. And so when you come along and you talk about our influence, even if that's not on your wish list, i.e. to be famous or to be a celebrity, and I'm glad you gave us a better definition of what being a celebrity is all about. Even if that's not on our wish list, all of us do have influence.
Yes.
And we have people watching. And I was hoping that you could expand on that a little bit more, the idea that people are watching. It's not just what we say. It's not just what we post in social media, that people are watching us. And with the added message that everybody watching this right now has a personal brand. Even if you go work for another company, another salon, where you're under that name, the name of that company and that umbrella, you still have your own personal brand. My name is Win Claybaugh, but Win Claybaugh is my brand. Can you talk about that and the importance of building a personal brand and the authentic side of why that's so important that people are watching you? That's a lot, I know.
No, of course. And truly the you that you are is the you that you're going to show. Is that if you're a grouchy person behind the scenes, it's going to finally come out. It's going to come out in the way you deal with clients. It's going to come out in leadership. And if you have children, it's going to come out with your children. And if you are authentically a person of compassion and you care and you love people, that's going to come out. And when I'll say this about you, I was in one of our schools in Kentucky. So I asked, when was the last time Win Claybaugh was here? They told me. And one gentleman said, man, I remember when Claybaugh was here and he just stayed until the end. He waited until every student had a chance to talk to him. He answered questions. And I'll never forget what this guy said. He said, that is one loving, and he used the word authentic person. Now, you may not have heard that story from that student, but that was the encounter that he had with you. And so what I'm looking for in the students and in our leaders for the Paul Mitchell movement is I'm looking for authenticity, but I'm also looking for consistency. I want people to be consistent 7 days a week. And I personally believe it's possible. I think that just because drama hits doesn't mean you have to be dramatic in the midst of the drama.
Authenticity, so you want to see that consistency. Because people, well, I took your advice, Tim. I did it once and I'm still stuck. I'm still not successful. I'm still not famous.
Yes. And the reality is that, as you know, when you work around the famous people, if you're not that great and you have a bad attitude, you won't last long. It's a revolving door. And
actually, so, I love it when you talk about being a one-hit wonder, which is kind of along the lines of what you're talking about right now. There's a lot of one-hit. They struck gold one time, but they couldn't duplicate that. Can you talk about that?
I'll give you an example. Like I was at the house of Quincy Jones, and we were talking about a certain performer, and it's not to put the performer down, but I'll name the performer. I said, why do you think Vanilla Ice only had one hit? And Quincy Jones goes, Tim, this is an amazing question. He goes, he's probably a nice guy, but he had one hit, and he bought a house off that one hit, toured off that one hit, right? Prospered off that one hit. And Quincy said, I wish I could have coached him that there was another hit and another hit, another hit, another hit underneath. So we don't want to be one-hit wonders. So if somebody's dream is just to come to Hollywood or Beverly Hills and work for Kylie Jenner, that may last 2 months. You may do something wrong, and then there's a line of 10 people that want your job. So do not be a one-hit wonder. And if they get these attributes in them, if they are internally motivated, if they're humble and stay in a place of humility, if they don't waste time on things that don't bring value, if they look up on the upside in the midst of downside situations, if they stay authentic, if they're continuing to learn, they put you on their comfort zone, they will not be a one-hit wonder. They will continue because of consistency.
Oftentimes when I introduce you, what I say to people is that you're the person, the celebrity or the sports figure calls if TMZ is on their tail.
That's true.
Meaning when they're in trouble, they call Tim Storey, but they're not calling you to spin the story. They're not calling you to, somehow put up some smoke and mirrors so people don't really understand how much I screwed up. They call you so that you can basically get them back on the right path. You screwed up, dude.
Yeah.
So that's what you're called in to do. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. And
we all make those mistakes. That's okay. We make the mistake. We've
You
all
said
been
that
there.
perfectly. And so many people that are watching right now, what happens is that number one, you have a purpose. A purpose brings hope and expectation. So when you started our school, you had a purpose. You were excited. You wore black. Now we're allowed to wear some different colors as well. But you were all excited. You had a purpose. And then what happens is that once you are headed on that purpose, problems will always arise. Guys, problems will always arise. I call it bugs on the windshield. When you drive in the summertime in any location in the world, okay, there's going to be bugs on the windshield. That's how life is. If you're in our school right now, bugs in the windshield. If you're a leader of one of our schools, bugs in the windshield. Whatever part of what we're doing, there's bugs in the windshield. But when Clayball, Tim, Storey, we deal with bugs in the windshield. So number one, you have the purpose. Number two, you got the problem. The problem stage is where most people get bogged down. So where I come in is I get people back on their priority pathway. Back on their priority pathway. Now, some of us remember this movie, The Wizard of Oz. When do you remember The Wizard of Oz?
Love that. One of my favorites, of course.
Okay, so she needs to do what? Follow the yellow brick road. So when somebody that you would know, I could name their names, when somebody that you know goes off course, I would say I would be the number one person in the world that they come to, because I am not good at everything, but I'm a pro at getting somebody back on the yellow brick road. What are you going to teach them? I'm going to teach them what I just taught you. Be internally motivated. Be humble, stay humble. Don't waste your time on things that don't matter. Look at the upside. But I'm also going to teach them, make sure you watch who your partners are. There's power in partnership. You could be the right person with the right plan, but doggone it, you better be around the right partners.
I've heard you talk about that a lot, the importance of the people that you surround yourself by. And some of the questions that are coming in here are related to, how do you overcome grief, loss, discouragement? How do you stay focused, get back on track when you've screwed up? And I have a feeling that that message on being surrounded by the right partners is a big part of that answer.
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually take you through steps, okay? So let's say a setback happens in your life. So number one is that you have to become awake. Because when you know this, and I know this because we're past 20 years of age now, is that we know people that had a setback and they never woke up. They just stayed on drugs, right? Or they just stayed indoors, or they just stayed depressed. They didn't take the help. So number one, if you've had a setback, you need to wake up. You need to become awake. Number two, you have to become aware. Awake and aware are two different things. Awake is, I'm awake. Aware is, okay, where am I? I just woke up, but where am I? So you become awake. Number two, you become aware. And number three, you have to take inventory. Okay, what do I have? What have I lost? Can I pay the rent? Am I going to make it through school? Is this relationship going to work? So if you're in the middle of a setback, number one, become awake. Number two, number three, take inventory. And here comes today. Number four, reach for the right partners. Reach for the right partners. But they have to have a similar mindset and similar motives. They have to have the right mindset and the right motives. Mindset, motives. Mindset, motives. Because if you reach for the wrong people, they can put you in even a worse position that you are in. So when I talk about becoming awake, aware, taking inventory, reaching for the right partners, what does that say to you?
I'm heavily influenced by the people that I surround myself by, and that the message that you make sure that they have the mindset all of that is so important. Tim, what's your advice if someone listening or watching this right now is not surrounded by the right people? What's your advice on how they move forward? It's not they go in and start divorcing everybody, start attacking and judging everybody. That's not the answer. What is the advice?
What it is that what I see with a lot of people who are living in a family condition where there's a lot of negative people is because of the power of this thing called the phone. I could take these headsets and I could put them here, and all of a sudden I could be listening to Win Clayball's podcast. And I can hear you interview all these amazing people that you interview. And there can be drama all over the house, but I could be in the corner of my room getting my ears filled with information. This is so powerful. So today we can watch podcasts, we can have books on tapes, we can watch documentaries, we can read books, and we can do what I call think big in small places. Think big in small places. So for a while, for a season, you might be in a funky spot because you can't afford to get out. And you're living with dogs barking and people making noise and drama going on till midnight. You need to sequester yourself in the quiet of your own little bedroom or your own little space in the bed, or go to the backyard and sit on the porch, listen to podcasts, get motivated, spend time with people like Win and I, and let us build your faith and starve your doubt.
Some of the other questions are related to one of the learning leaders type that sometimes our students can feel a little bit, what's the word, entitled.
Yeah.
It is that generation. What I like to say is it's the microwave generation. They want things instantly. They watch one YouTube video on how to do makeup and think that Warner Brothers should now call them to book them for their next feature film. So what's your input on that?
My input is that I admire their massive egos.
Okay.
But the reality is that the ego that massive is going to be dealt with one way or another. And here's a challenging thing about Beverly Hills, in which I've played a big role in Beverly Hills for over 35 years, is that for every person that wants to be a model, there's 1,000 people in line. For every beautiful girl from some part of the world, there's more there. Amazing artists, people who are creatives, they're everywhere. And so the competition is so huge. But I have a thought on how to get around that competition, and I think Win Clayball would admit that this is true. And he would say that this is true. And this is what it is. When you serve another person's dream, what you make happen for someone else, life will make happen for you. Don't ever make it about, I am stepping in and I'm going to West Palm Beach and I'm taking over. Or I'm moving to Marbella, Spain, and wait till they see me. Or I'm going to London, wait till they see me. I'm going to Beverly Hills, wait till they see me. No. Find one of us, male or female, serve our dream, and what you make happen for someone else, life will make happen for you. Even Vidal Sassoon told me that. He was an apprentice for someone else. Ron Howard, the great director, was apprentice for Steven Spielberg. Win Clayball, you started up just going through the ranks. I saw that picture you put up on social media the other day with you and Robert Cromains when you guys looked like you were about 14. Who knows what you were doing back there to serve another person's dream, right?
Right. We were hustling, one of your favorite words. We were hustling, and we're still hustling.
Yes. You had the thinnest waist in the history of thin waists.
Well,
Your waist must have been about a 28, because that belt you had on in that photo, it looked like it was a 28 waist, but it still had room.
well, it's not 28 anymore. Maybe it's 30 now. You know what when we were all quarantined, it's like you stock up on snacks, and I think I ate all the snacks in a day, right? Supposed to last for a couple of weeks, right? But I'm going to complain that I have too much food. I don't think so. You know, you talk about that apprenticing. Somebody asked me, there was a podcast that I did this morning, and they brought up the name Vidal Sassoon. And, you know, I had approached Vidal Sassoon when he had no idea who I was. But thank you for that input, because you're right. I didn't say, Vidal, I'm here. This, you know, look at me, watch me. I came with humility and said, how can I serve you? Yes. And he was excited about Habitat for Humanity. So I became excited for Habitat Humanity. Meaning I found out what he was passionate about and how I could serve him. And I became a part of what he already had going on. And because of that, he then said, well, what do you have going on, Win? How can I support you? That's the way to do it, Win. I see it in so many people. I was on an airplane. I was talking to this very handsome gentleman, tall, and we were just dialoguing. I said, what do you do? He says, I'm John Legend's manager, like the John Legend, the singer. I said, oh, how'd that happen? And he was educated, went to college, but he started off as his bodyguard. And he said that I went from the bodyguard, and John just started trusting me with certain projects. And the next thing you know, I started to move up. This is very, very, very constant with people that I meet. I'm involved in P. Diddy's camp. And I was talking to somebody who moved up in P. Diddy's camp. They started off same thing, just serving in a way that did not look glamorous. But then people within the camp said, hey, look at this person. They're faithful in a little. Let's give them more. And I think that that's what you look for in leaders, and that's what I look for in leadership. Is I'm looking for that humility. Remember, we talked about that. We said that be humble, but stay in a place of humility. And if you don't stay in a place of humility, life will be sure to humble you. What's the advice that you have for people to teach them the balance between the importance of social media to build your brand, to build your business, but to not get so sucked into that it's conversations that really don't matter, the hours that it can pull away from very productive time spent in education or service. There just seems to be such an off balance, and we have hours a day to donate to checking our Instagram feed, and yet we haven't called our mom in weeks. Yeah, it's a good point. So I think that, number one, a lot of the people that are watching, they follow me on Instagram, and I many times talk back to them. And some of you that are watching, you know that it's true. In fact, 2 people last week, they said, is this really Tim Storey? Because they're asking me questions. I spoke at your school, you're asking me questions, so I do my best to try to answer. So here's what I want to say. With social media, you have to create a certain style or a certain brand that is you. And even for a while, if you look like you're in the pack, that's okay. Because the more confident you get in your trade, we will start to realize you stepped out of the pack. So let's say if you are schools, for the first 3 years, you might just look like you're in the pack. You know, you're working at that place or this place. Or that. So you look like you're in the pack. You look like you're common, normal, and regular. That's okay. But just have a brand that is full of integrity, that's at a high level, to when somebody who's doing well then checks up on your Facebook or your Instagram or your Twitter, they like what they read and what they see. Because sometimes you only have one time for a first impression. And I do know that a lot of people that I work with celebrities,
they do look to see what their employees are doing. So I think it's important to make it classy, uniquely your own, but don't be afraid if yours looks like a lot of other people's, because it takes a while to find your own unique brand.
You talk about setbacks. What have been some of the monumental, life-altering setbacks for you personally? Because your brand, you put yourself out there as a coach, not just in business, but in many areas of life. And then all of a sudden there's a Tim Storey setback. How do you save face, or how do you pull yourself out of that hole? I like your analogy of when you're going through hell, keep going.
Yes.
This is not permanent. Don't set up camp there. I've stolen that from you many, many times. But what have been some of your setbacks? Because I believe that, I'm very, very vocal about being clean off of drugs for 18 years. I will talk about that for the rest of my life, because I know that does give people hope. And while if Win was able to overcome that, maybe so can I.
Okay, so when you write a book that says Comeback and Beyond, and it's endorsed by Smokey Robinson, Lee Iacocca, and everybody else, if you write that book, people for some reason don't think you're going to have a setback. So I would say that one of my biggest setbacks, because it became well known, is I went through a divorce many, many years ago. Now, let me tell you why that was so difficult. Because the family I married into, super classy. I really respected the parents. The father does extremely well. In fact, he was one of the voices in the ear of both Bush presidents and Barack Obama. Okay, so very unusual in urban affairs, just a brilliant man. So there was a time when that I asked him if it was okay if I married his daughter. And he was excited about it. We had a big wedding. But 10 years into the relationship, it was just flat. And it was difficult. We went to therapy for 2 years, and we came to the conclusion, this is not working, and we got a divorce. Now, divorce is divided force. So you have force, now I got divorce. If it feels like a tearing and a ripping when you guys break up with somebody, it is, because you're connected and it tears. Now, because of my background of being the comeback coach and having a pretty squeaky clean image at the time, it was the first time I saw things online of the divorce. I started seeing things online of, how can he tell us about this and he can't even handle his own family? Woo, that stuff hurt. That stuff hurt. It hurt, it hurt, it hurt.
Did people call you a fraud?
Well, it was to that degree of, wow, Tim, you must have missed something in your own teaching. But let me tell you something. I think I did. And what happened to me is I started getting very popular and extremely busy. And I was moving so quick that I was missing the obvious things that were not being tended to. And it's almost like somebody moving so fast through life that you lose your keys. Where's my keys? That's how my life had become. And I spent a lot of quality time still with my children. But then I found that with my own spouse, she seemed busy enough. I seemed busy enough. Let's connect in the middle. But it wasn't working for her. And so as we went through the divorce and then became super good friends 2 years after the divorce, and now are real good friends to where we hang out at each other's houses. I was just there a few days ago at her house. We're best of friends. But it was painful, guys. And it caused a lot of shame in my life. But at that time, just like you've had to do with addiction in your past, I'm glad I looked for help. And my help came in the form of an amazing therapist, Dr. Mendez, African-American lady who taught at USC. She changed my life. And my friends, you know, people that I could talk to the way I talk to you today. So I can't tell you guys enough that setbacks happen, but I have learned from my setback, and I've decided to turn my test into my testimony and be a nicer person, a person that is more mature. And if I ever remarry again, I think I'll do better next time.
Yeah, we can always do better. So Tim, during all of this, as we record this, and not that this won't be watched and listened to years from now, because it will, but currently we're quarantined. Most of us are still quarantined during COVID-19. What are some of the things that you're personally studying and focused on? Who are some of your mentors and heroes that are helping you day by day by day? I interviewed this great guy last week, and Charlie Engel, who ran across the Sahara Desert. So it was basically, he ran 2 marathons a day, every day for 111 days consecutively. And people said, you know, how do you do that? You know, do you just think about the end in mind, you know, to dip your toes into the Red Sea? He's like, no, 1 mile at a time, 1 mile at a time, 1 mile at a time. So how are you getting through this?
Well, number one, that's powerful, right? In its own right. One of the books that I'm reading that I got as a present is this book right here. Can you read the title?
Not without putting on my blue glasses that my daughter just got me. Humans of New York Stories. Oh, that's great.
Okay. So
what's it about?
What this is about, Win, is that they take pictures of people in New York, okay? And so it's amazing that many times the picture that they take is not the background you would think the person has. It's really an amazing thing. So, you know, many times we see somebody and we go, oh, look at that guy. He's coming out of a Broadway play. He looks fresh, looks clean. But then they tell the story that his wife just died 2 weeks before that picture was taken.
Wow.
And I like this book, Humans of New York, because it tells stories about how all of us are. All of us are coping with something. All of us are coping with something. And so a lot of what I'm studying right now at this stage of my life is, because I'm helping people, is I'm helping people to cope, helping people to get through, and letting them know that they are not alone in their pain, that every one of us is going through either recovery or discovery at the same time. So a lot of the books I'm reading, a lot of the literature that I'm doing, a lot of things that my researchers are giving me have to do with the area of suffering, challenge, pain, coping, but getting through. Do I still believe in living a great life? Yes. Do I believe that all of our students are going to live a great life? Yes. Do I believe that our faculty will live a great life? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I still believe that dreams come true.
And you're doing that for the masses, for thousands and thousands of people, helping them cope, helping them get through, helping them how to have hope, because I believe that hope is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to people. You're doing that for thousands, if not millions of people. But people watching this right now, they could do that for one person. They could do that for the 3 people that they're quarantined with. They could be the one who provides that hope.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, because I do a show called Tim's Story Live on Sunday nights. It will probably be going on for a long time, but we'll probably end up on a network, because now I'm getting offers to do this. But I had on Win Claybaugh, not once, but twice, because that's how good he is. But Win, you did fantastic Last week I interviewed Deepak Chopra. He did fantastic, but I'm going to tell you, your program got even bigger ratings than Deepak Chopra. So you just did fantastic. It's a privilege to be real friends with you, and we're on a real journey together, helping each other out, building each other up, right?
Yes.
And our vision is to see their vision come to pass. Don't you feel that in your life?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the fact that we're going to send out these messages. You guys, you just spent an hour with Tim Storey. He didn't tell you to sell more Paw Mitchell product. He didn't tell you to do a better haircut. He didn't tell you how to better treat your customer sitting in your chair. And yet the message is, the value of what he has to share is just as much, if not more, to do with your success in your career, in your relationships in life, as is anything else that we teach in our Paw Mitchell schools. Tim, the first time you and I met face to face, we ended that meeting and you said to me, Win, we're going to be very, very good friends. And I took that to heart. And then you followed up with that. And so the fact that I've been able to travel with you and share the stage with you, and I can't tell you how much you mean to us, to our Paw Mitchell school world. And thanks so much for saying yes so many years ago. And that commitment just gets stronger and stronger.
Yes. I have one last question for you. When do you think we're going to do Caper? Because I love Caper.
Well, we now have Caper back on the books. We have a date with the Disney property in March of 2021. So we're working. You can imagine how much work it takes to navigate through everything that we're all dealing with, and the story changes from one day to the next, but we're navigating through it, and we're going to provide that hope that yes, one day soon, we're all going to come together and have that beautiful experience. And Tim, you've been a part of that for many years. So thanks for that too.
What a privilege.
I love you, Tim. I know all of these people love you as well. Wait, we're going to send you a copy, Tim, of all of the comments in the chat box, just so that you can read what everybody had to say.
I love that. And that'll build my faith, and continue to follow us at Tim Storey Official on Instagram, and we have Facebook. And what a privilege to be part of the family. I can't wait to come to your school in person.
Thanks. You guys follow Tim. You have to follow Tim. Thanks, Tim. I love you.
Love you too. Talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.